but he also had a huge impact on music. And why would that be? Well, I think it's because music has always been huge within the Judeo-Christian tradition. So, for example, this is a pretty cool song here. If you look at the lyrics, it's got the same kind of lyrical structure you see sometimes even in modern day songs, the way that endures forever is repeated again and again at the end of this. This is sung in many churches today, but of course we know that comes out of Psalm 118. It's not even, it's just basically the lyrics are the words of Psalm 118. This is a very early song about God. As a matter of fact, this is the song that most people think Jesus was singing with his disciples at the Last Supper in Matthew 26. And there's other songs that you'll find in Scripture as well. You'll see that, for example, I mentioned earlier, 1 Timothy 3:16. This is a nice lyrical structure of a song, but this is the verse from 1 Timothy, often believed to be either an early song or an early prayer or an early creed of Christian. You'll see others that are similar to this as well. For example, here, this I think has got very much potential as a song, right? And this is considered to be perhaps an early song of the Christian church from 1 Peter 2. Now, what's interesting about this as a case maker for me is that we could reconstruct. Remember I showed you how we could reconstruct everything you need to know about Jesus just from the art, the visual art that's been created about Jesus in the most ancient periods? Well, look at this. Something similar happens here. So remember I showed you how we're going to reconstruct Jesus. Even if we lost the New Testament, even if we lost the Gospels, we could reconstruct the story of Jesus from visual arts. Well, the same thing can be said from music. If we just look at the songs and hymns that were sung by the earliest Christians while Christianity was still not the religion of the empire, was still under persecution, if we just, and here they are, by the way, you can identify these. There's a bunch of these. These are the earliest hymns sung. You see the dates there. They go back. I stopped them around the 400s. So I'm just going to now give you a summary. What would you know about Jesus just from these hymns? You lost the New Testament. You've got no Gospels. But what could you reconstruct about Jesus just from the earliest hymns? Well, pretty much everything related to his birth and everything related to his ministry. You're not going to lose any of that. All of this is repeated in the hymns that were sung by the earliest Christians. And about his mission and what he was here to do, well, guess what? You're going to capture all that back again as well. As a matter of fact, the great thing about hymns is they're deeply theological. So although you get data, the data related, for example, related to his death is all repeated in the hymns, and all the data related to his resurrection and return is all repeated in the hymns. But you also get his titles, the titles that are used to describe Jesus. And you get theologically, which is pretty cool, you get his entire nature. That is, I think, really an interesting truth, is that you are not going to erase, but if you combine the earliest songs sung about Jesus and the earliest visual art done about Jesus, you're going to be able to recreate everything. Now, it's not just, though, that you can recreate the story of Jesus. It's like in the arts. It's that Jesus has the greatest impact any one singular person has ever had on the discipline. So if you look at the periods now, this is what is typically described as the history of music. It's the same way the history of visual arts is broken into epic periods. The history of music is broken typically into, these are not the Christian divisions, these are what music historians will say. Now, if you were to go back in each one of these periods and ask, who is the innovator? Who is innovating music in these historic periods of music? I think you know what you're going to find. You're going to find Christians are the innovators. And they are contributing in a way that is way oversized. And so if you look at their contributions, they are really amazing what they contribute. And so these are the Christians who are contributing. And what are they contributing? Well, they're contributing all kinds of little advances in music, the way that you hear it today. Just the way that you hear it, the way that people all over the world, because we are now living in a world in which Spotify basically puts, and whatever's put out on Spotify has global impact. It's not just, it has Western impact. The top songs listened to here are often the same songs, like movies, that are listened to in China. So you got the kind of media impact globally. And all of these elements of modern music did not exist until these groups brought them into existence. It's pretty, I mean, I don't want to like beat up and go too deeply into each one of these innovations, but every innovation could kind of be listed, you know, from the way that we even started to write musical notation. Nobody was writing musical notation about music. It was all passed on from memory. Melody was passed on from memory one generation to another until a Christian invented musical notation. The harmonizing, the instrumentation behind voices, major and minor scales, all of this stuff what brought into reality related to music by Christians. Now, why is that interesting? They led the way. I want to show you. You're listening to something right now. Here's you listening to your music. Now, I don't know what you're listening to. I don't know what you like. But you like something, and I guarantee you're indebted to a Christian, regardless of what genre of music you are listening to. Why? Because in the time you listen to music that looks like this. The music you're listening to is got these elements right now. And I don't care if you're listening to hip hop or you're listening to country or you're listening to some, I don't care what your genre is. You're listening to classical music. I don't care what your genre is. These are the rough elements, the nature of music you're listening to. Now, it turns out there's a long runway before you came along in which Christians contributed all of these elements systematically. In fact, it's on the basis of these historic contributions that you now have a form of music that is the kind of music you're listening to right now. Now, what are you listening to? That's the question. Let me show you something that I thought was kind of interesting. Okay, I did a search on Billboard, on Rolling Stone magazine, on IMDb, of the top 100 artists in the last century. Top 100. Now, everyone's list is slightly different, so you end up with more than 100. Okay, but I just wanted to show you the list of what are typically seen. And here it is. These are the people who are typically seen as somewhere in the most historic bands. Actually, this isn't that list. This is something I wanted to do a little bit earlier. This is a list of just Christian artists. Some of you out there listen to Christian music. Okay, you do. And this is a list of the top Christian artists. These are just the flat out professing Christians, okay? Who, if you listen to worship or contemporary Christian music, you know, CCM, you're listening to this. Our good friend Elisa Childers, Zoe Girl, I think is on this list. Yes, there it is, in the very bottom of the list on the far right-hand side. So this is a list of all just this is the kind of impact that Jesus has had on music within Christianity. But now let's go to outside. I don't listen to Christian music, Jim. I listen to really good music. I hear people say this all the time. Your Christian music, I don't like that. I listen to only secular artists. Fine. Here's the list of secular artists that are listed in the top Billboard, Rolling Stone, and IMDb. Here they are. Whoever your favorite band is, or you probably have somebody at least on this list that you would say, yeah, I like that guy, or I like that girl, or I like that band. Okay, great. Look at this list now. I want to show it to you. Do you realize on this list, every one of these people has sung a song about Jesus? There is nobody in the history of pop music. And by the way, a lot of these people are flat out not Christians and are hostile to Christianity. Let me show you some of one of my favorites on here, okay? I like the Stooges, Jesus Loves the Stooges, or Smokey Robinson did one called Jesus Told Me to Love You. Nirvana did Jesus Doesn't Want Me for a Sunbeam. Aerosmith did Street Jesus. This is my favorite right here by Frank Zappa. Jesus Thinks You're a Jerk. That's the name of the song, all right? So I don't care who it is you're listening to in music. That person you're listening to in music was influenced by Jesus. Jesus influences, informs, inspires, instructs, incites. Sometimes people infuriate some people, invigorates others. But the point is, no one has been as influential. As a matter of fact, let me show you something else that's kind of interesting. I don't care what award show or what competition show you're watching, if it's America's Got Talent or it's you know, whatever it is. The people who dominate those shows. Well, here's American Idol. American Idol. This back on there again, and you know, it's got a rich, long history with here in our country and in other countries as well. Let me show you season 1 of American Idol. Here are the cities that season 1 actually drew from. Now, these are not all the most Christian cities in America. Would you agree? A lot of these are probably some amongst the least Christian cities in America. But who was the winner? The winner was Kelly Clarkson, committed, outspoken Christian. She sang in her youth group before she entered the competition. Season 2, same kind of thing, right? I mean, a little bit more. I mean, it's kind of still the most Christian cities in Nashville is, I'm sure, but Ruben Studdard, another Christian. As a matter of fact, if you look at the first 11 seasons, you will see that who wins, I think all but 3 of these are outspoken Christians. And the other 3 were raised within Christianity, although I'm not sure where they stand today. That's just interesting to me. As a matter of fact, if you go back and look at the other winners and the other runners-ups, you're going to find that it's dominated. Why? Why would this show and other shows like it, because there happen to be, no, it's more than just being in the West. It's that they come from a Western tradition that Jesus founded, in which Jesus sang, and then he encouraged his followers to sing, and then they served as the inspiration for everyone who followed them. And guess what? We provide an environment every single week in which you've got a stage to sing on. So no kidding. It turns out that most people who are singing publicly probably started in a church in which they were singing in front of think about what other worldview provides you with the environment in which you can refine your creative skills in front of a live audience every week. That's part of who we are as a culture. So before I finish this with you,